Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the masterclass and the Open Doors event of the Masters of Applied Statistics with Network Analysis. And it's a joint masterclass with a program called Management Analytics for Business with St. Petersburg campus of High School of Economics. Now, today's masterclass has a little bit of a silly title. It's called What's Wrong with SWOT Analysis? And it comes from my own experience as first a practicing decision maker in business. I have worked in corporate America for over 8 years. So I have that experience. Of course, I have an MBA, which is Master of Business Administration, and that is a degree required for business decision making lots of times abroad. But I also worked in corporate America, and I dealt a lot with business decision making. And SWOT analysis became one of the worst tools, or the least liked tools that I have encountered. And I will give you my perspective of what's wrong with it. Not that it's necessarily a bad tool, but I think good education, especially based on analytics, can make that tool a lot better. So what I wanted to start with is just the strategic decision making. The focus of today's masterclass is that strategic decision making is the foundation of solid business. So if we think about it, most businesses rely on building strategies and attempting to foresee the future, forecast, what we call it in business analytics. And they have to rely on certain tools to do that. You can notice that I have lots of sources that are listed at the end of each slide, but here's an academic article published in Journal of Management and Organization that states that 50 to 90% of all strategic initiatives that companies make fail. If you think about it, it's over half. So we're not saying 45 to 60 or something like that. We're not even giving that boundary. It's over half of all business decisions. And the story of this failure of business goes back, well, I don't want to say just years, it goes back centuries. So if we think of some of the failing business decisions, one of the classical examples that's taught in modern business schools is the failure of a Western Union to buy a patent for a telephone for $100. Of course, it's 1876. That's what I'm saying. It's centuries, not just years. And that's a while back. And $100 then is approximately 2 million now. But if you think about it, what's 2 million for a thriving business? Western Union, it still exists, right? You have heard of Western Union, but you have heard of it as a postal company, a money transfer company, in other words, a telegraph company. So it has made itself prominent solution to transmission issues back in 1800s, but it has failed to see the value of the voice transmission, not just the document transmission, but the voice transmission. And it did not buy that patent from Dell. In fact, the president of Western Union back then has written him several letters saying how miserable is the telephone as a product. So that's one of the well-known failures. It's a classical failure. Another classical failure, of course, is the Beatles' rejection by London's Decca Records. Again, it's a story for music lovers who know that at that time, Beatles was deemed uninteresting. And there are lots and lots of stories, of course, in music industry when talent wasn't recognized. And maybe, this is highly subjective. Recognizing someone's talent is not easy. But again, years later, after the Beatles have become the most recognized label in history, this is seen as a classic business failure. Now, there was a person named Ross Perot, and it's a well-known businessman in the United States of America. He has refused to purchase Microsoft, at that time offered for purchase by Bill Gates for 40 to 60 million. Now, Bill Gates, as I'm sure you know, himself purchased the Windows software for $25,000 from the developer, but at a certain point, having developed the company, he wanted to capitalize on his investment and sell it. And I'm sure he was very happy that that transaction did not go through, because today Microsoft is worth over 350 billion. Now the exact figures are known. I put 350 using the reference because, as I'm sure you know, that number changes all the time, but it's in billions. Ross Perot said at that time that he wasn't interested in investing in Microsoft because it wasn't well developed as a company, and he turned out to be right, except he thought of lack of development as a negative factor, when in fact, it was a positive factor, because since then Microsoft has only been growing. Okay, so I can go on and on and on and on about all the decision-making failures that the world has seen. But guess what? I am not the only one who is concerned about that. There are tons of stories about poor decision-making. In fact, there is a separate website that's dedicated to the decision-making failures. It's called decisionfailures.com. Okay, and you're welcome to look it up and see what are some of the worst decisions people have made. And when we think about some of the worst decision making that we have seen in this history of humankind, the question comes is, why is that humans can't make good decisions? Okay, again, I want to remind you that over half of people, half of decisions, I'm not sure these are actually people, but over half of decisions, up to 90% of strategic decisions have failed. Okay, so almost everyone has heard of SWOT analysis. And then I have some of the quotes. You have links, references for the quotes that say that SWOT analysis is a planning methodology that helps organizations build a strategic plan to meet goals, improve operations, and keep the business relevant. Another quote, SWOT is one of the most important tools for strategic analysis, which is the basis for strategic decision-making. Well, it's very easy to put two and two together, because I remind you, 50 to 90% of all strategic initiatives fail. So what are my problems with SWOT? Of course, SWOT analysis is a very simple visual matrix tool that outlines the company's strengths and weaknesses. Those are the internal processes. And opportunities and threats, those are that is referred to as external analysis. And SWOT, of course, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, there are favorable and unfavorable conditions for doing business, and favorable, of course, strengths and opportunities, unfavorable weaknesses and threats. So it's a 2x2 matrix, and it actually has some benefits and drawbacks. I mean, obviously, since it's one of the most important business-making tools, people have relied on it quite heavily. I see it all the time used in all kinds of decision-making situations, including academic decisions. I mean, not so long ago, I have seen an academic present his business plan for development and academic structure using SWOT analysis. So everyone, not just businesses, but lots of people, it seems, are using SWOT analysis these days. And to be fair, I have included some of the positives. I mean, and I actually, to be fair, I included the exact number. In fact, I have used a variety of sources to find the strengths and weaknesses of SWOT analysis. And I tried to be as objective as possible. So I have ignored some of the strengths that have been listed as SWOT strengths. For example, identifying the company's strengths and weaknesses. That was referred to as SWOT strength. So because it's a definition of SWOT, I don't find it appropriate to list it as a strength, right? So among the strengths of SWOT analysis, simplicity. It really is a simple tool. You don't have to put together, or you don't have to learn a whole lot in terms of analytics. You can just relatively quickly put together an analysis, and some say that you can just do it in as fast as 10 minutes, right? It's one tool for stories. You tell really 4 stories about your company. You talk about the company's advantages relative to the other firms. And again, here I'm extending SWOT analysis already, right? Because the combination of strengths and opportunities provides for competitive advantage. So anybody can do it. You can do it on any level, even though majority of decision making happens on a higher level in the company, which means at the level of CEOs and just below, like vice presidents and directors. People can do SWOT analysis on an operational level. There is absolutely no reason why people cannot use it on an operational level. It's low cost. If you think about it, it doesn't really take much more than a pen and a piece of paper. And you can, when you need to, just sit down, divide the paper into 4 parts, and here you have a SWOT analysis. It has a wide range of applications. It's applicable to any part of the decision structure within the organization. It's also applicable to any part of the strategic decision. The decision itself, for example, a merger or an acquisition of a company, or a much smaller decision, let's say purchasing a new computer, even if it's a, let's say, large server for a company. So it can be applied to almost anything. It promotes discussion. I think it's an important point to make that SWOT analysis can actually involve people getting together at the same table, maybe people from different parts of the organization, and talking about some of the things that are important to the company. And I think that is an absolutely invaluable point of that. And it's also highly visual. So if you go back to that SWOT, I mean, you can actually list strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in each of the quadrants, and people can quickly see what is going on. So maybe that's what accounts for some of its popularity. Now, the question is then, why do 50 to 90% of all strategic initiatives fail? And again, to be fair, from the same websites from which I have found the strengths, I am providing the drawbacks of SWOT analysis. And let's compare the weight of them. First is its simplicity for the tool on the positive side, but its oversimplification on the negative. Lots of times people fail to see the far-reaching consequences of their decisions because the tool for the analysis itself is so simple. Lots of times people fail to realize that they oversimplify much more complex issues. Now, it relies on brainstorming. Okay, now what is brainstorming? Brainstorming is access to information that you have already. Maybe there is some preparation involved in it, and people do some research, but actually prior research is not required as part of the SWOT analysis. So people just rely on what they know. And of course, there are some drawbacks of that because there is lack of control. You can't control what is going on with an organization or what parts of the organization you include and you don't. You just, because it's an overly simple approach, you put together some components that are actually not that necessarily simple. Now, SWOT analysis was never designed as a framework for providing solutions. So if there is a problem, then within the framework of SWOT analysis, solutions are not expected. And which part do you actually address as a solution to the company's specific needs? Now, it also does not prioritize some of the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities against each other. Of course, the company can put in certain priorities for itself, but it's not a part of traditional analysis. And I actually, having worked in corporate America for 8 years and then for many years since, I have never seen, not once have I seen SWOT analysis done with priorities. Maybe I just wasn't lucky. But I think because it's not a part of the original framework of SWOT analysis, people simply don't do that. And the sixth criteria, again, 6 on the right, 6 on the left, subjectivity without right information. And what I mean by that is that basically you don't know what you don't know. When you're putting together strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on a piece of paper, you are relying only on the information that is available to you. So only the information you have access to. You have no idea which information you do not have access to, okay? And relying on this subjective information can have serious drawbacks. So, well, first of all, I want to go back here for just one moment and say why it's a worse decision making tool. I was trying to be fair, and I have put together 6 points on each side. Moreover, I got them from accessible resources, and I have tried to use the most tangible benefits, right? As opposed to identifying the company's strengths, identifying the company's weaknesses. Those are actually listed. If you Google SWOT analysis and benefits of SWOT analysis, those are listed as benefits of SWOT analysis on most of the popular websites, which means they're using the definition to provide the benefits. So it's absolutely ridiculous when people do that. So I was trying to be fair. But if you look at the positives and negatives, and subjectively, I agree, weigh the value, you will realize that there is a lot more heavy weight on the negative side than it is on the positive side. So the tool that has 4 stories, of course, relies on brainstorming. Well, then the stories are the stories you already know. It's not something that you create in order to make a valid decision making. And maybe that's why Alexander Graham Bell became so rich, because someone at a certain point in time refused to pay him $100, relying on what they know. And we know Western Union only as a telegraph company, only as a paper transmission company. It could have been the one of the largest companies ever at the time. Okay, so the benefits weigh a lot less than the drawbacks. So what is wrong with SWOT? All strategic business decisions should be based on reliable and relevant information. Now, that means facts and data from reputable sources, not from brainstorming, not from what you already know. And SWOT analysis itself goes against this format. It does not require decision makers to use reliable sources. And now, while it might think reasonable that people who make big strategic decisions will actually try to use real important sources, I have to tell you again from my business experience is that big decisions are made on a very heavy, very high level. And these very high level business decisions, people who make them are often quite busy, and they rely on available heuristics. They don't bother checking too many sources because they just simply don't have the time. And they are interested in finding a solution quickly, which means they're not going to be doing academic type of research, okay? So SWOT analysis, because it does not require reputable sources, usually does not use reputable sources, just by the nature of human beings that usually take the easy way out. Second, SWOT analysis does not require scholarly information to be successful. You can, if you want to, just quickly throw together a SWOT analysis in 10 minutes or less. And it will look good just because it's so highly visual and it's so beneficial. People love visual information. When they see the graph, when they see the chart, as we often talk about in our program, they think this information is accurate, right? So another important part is that it ignores cognitive biases. Cognitive biases is a big problem in decision making. I'm listing just a few simply because there are too many to list. But here there is cognitive biases that are especially relevant to corporate decision making. For example, prior hypothesis bias. This is a cognitive bias that actually refers to the decision makers who have strong prior beliefs about relationship between two variables. So if someone is looking at the patent for a telephone and they believe that it is not a valuable future tool, they're not going to perceive it as a valuable future tool. That's a prior hypothesis bias. Next is escalating commitment. That is a very common problem in corporate decision making, because once people put $1 million, 2 million, 10 million, 100 million into a failing project, they start to think that once they have dumped so much money, they can't stop anymore. They can't quit. They have to continue investment, okay? So no SWOT analysis can dissuade them from this escalation of commitment. Reasoning by analogy is another cognitive bias. And reasoning by analogy involves the use of simple analogies to make sense of complex problems. It's a heuristic, right? So they say, well, if company ABC was successful, then we will be successful. Because when we look at opportunities and threats, who do we compare ourselves to? We compare ourselves exactly to our competitors, people who have made decisions, who have been successful, and we think we're going to be successful as well. That's reasoning by analogy. It has absolutely nothing to do with solid decision making. Now, another one is representativeness. Is when we generalize from a small sample or even single anecdote. That's one of the classical failures of dot-coms back in late 90s, when a company could easily get seed financing from angel investors just because they had a .com, okay? Well, that's exactly what is happening here, because only if, the first few companies were successful, everybody thought that all of the .coms would be successful. Well, the level of bankruptcies was unprecedented. It did not affect Russia as much because at that time technology wasn't developed a whole lot, so we didn't have a whole lot of .com companies. But in the States, where I lived at the time, I remember the wave of bankruptcies back in the 90s. Now, illusion of control. It's an overestimation of one's ability to control events. It's especially present among higher management folks who think that they can control a lot of things that are going on, even those that are not subject to their control, because they deal with very large scale decisions, and they, make very large amount of money. It's a very well-known fact that corporate management actually make a lot of money. So because they have this illusion, right, that they control things that are going on, when in fact they do not. Well, and the availability error, it's another common bias in strategic decision making. It arises from our predisposition to estimate the probability of an outcome based on how easy the outcome is to imagine. So we imagine a positive outcome. We imagine an opportunity in SWOT analysis, and we believe this opportunity is going to represent itself. So I think I'm done picking apart the SWOT analysis, because I'm a little bit unfair to this very widely used tool. It's my own subjective cognitive bias. I do not believe in its success because, first of all, 50 to 90% of decisions fail, strategic initiatives, right? And SWOT is the most common tool for strategic decision making. So it makes a very simple inference that SWOT is a bad instrument. So what I'm going to go to next is actually talk about what comes beyond SWOT, okay? And beyond SWOT is science, and that science is called contemporary decision sciences. It's a discipline on the intersection. It's actually interdisciplinary field. It's a discipline in the intersection of statistics, computer science, operations research, and many other similar disciplines. It actually utilizes the tools from many similar disciplines. And business statistics makes the foundation for this decision making. I don't know if you've heard me, but you probably did not. I did not say that statistical decision making is a part of SWOT analysis. It's not required. And as I said before, if it's not required, busy executives are not going to use it. So with that, I want to go into what Masters of Applied Statistics with Network Analysis, the relatively young MASNA program that just finished its second year of graduating students. They are getting their diplomas today and tomorrow. What we have to offer? Well, first of all, we are offering the course that's called Contemporary Decision Science as an integrated perspective. This is a required course for all students in our program that helps them learn how to make better decisions, relying on decision theory, relying on some philosophy of science early on. We talk about cognitive biases, we talk about ways to overcome them, and then we come to heavy mathematical tools that help people make decisions based on mathematics. And the focus today, which I will be introducing next, is the separate track in business analytics, which is actually aimed at learning to make better management decisions and teaching people to make better management decisions. So this business analytics track has a focus of preparing world-class analysts for all areas of business. Now, there are different names that I use now. I believe the convention will actually become established after a certain time. Right now, the terms data scientist are firmly grabbed by computer scientists, but we'll argue with them at a certain point in time, because data science is actually any science that analyzes data. It's not just computer science. So, but data scientists, business analysts, data analysts, those are somewhat synonymous in the meaning, and they're very competitive professions in business. In fact, Harvard Business Review called data scientist the sexiest job of the 21st century. So we have quite a few people who are already trained business analysts, even though they have not received specialized training in business analytics, which is what we're going to do from this point on. We are not doing this within the framework of our program. We're actually relying on a program that provides a degree in management. So these are people that are specialists in training management professionals. So when we're talking about business analytics, we're talking about analytics for business and management, not just analytics in general. Angel Barajas, he is with us today. He is has a PhD from University of Navarra in Spain, and he is actually one of the founders of Laboratory for Intangible Resources in St. Petersburg, and he's currently the supervisor of the master's program, Management and Analytics for Business. And Elena Shakina has a PhD from University of Vigo, and she is the head of the Laboratory of Intangible Driven Economy. So these two people work in this particular field of management, and they are training business analysts, and I will allow Angel to introduce himself in a couple of minutes. We also have the supervisors. I mean, as an academic supervisor of the MASNA program, of course, I'm responsible for all the content in the program, but also given my extensive corporate experience, prior MBA and extensive corporate experience, I can offer some suggestions about the course content, but the actual leader of this track will be Elena Belina, who is our graduate. She is one of our own who has become very successful within a very short frame of time. She is working in one of the largest Moscow companies, and she has an excellent understanding of what is required to be a successful data analyst in management, in business. She's here with us today, and maybe she will also say a few words. So the courses are positioned for all areas of business. So of course, this course content is designed by the Master of Management program at St. Petersburg, and we are augmenting this program, of course, with our own analytics tools, but the foundation of business knowledge, what is required for conducting good business, is given by the management side of this track. And it's courses that are related to business, general business related course in strategic management, analytical tools for business, and applied strategic management. There are some practical courses that are offered both in by St. Petersburg and us. For example, the research seminar, Statistical Methods and Network Analysis in Business Analytics, that's our course. And then Project Seminar and Statistical Consulting course, which is now a big part of our program. It has actually grown into a project of its own called Analytic Workshop. And offers management consulting to all, not just management consulting, but statistical consulting to all HEC faculty and staff currently for free, and actually has some commercial projects. This analytic workshop is run entirely by students and now younger colleagues at the laboratory. So they have set up this project and they are involving each other in good decision making. So, and then we also have specific preparation in people analytics and customer analytics. Those are different analytics. So for people who want to get higher specialization, let's say human resources, we have this people analytics program. For those who are more interested in working with, let's say, marketing, we have this customer analytics program. And we do have some graduates that I'm not going to focus too much on. It's important that you know that our graduates are very successful. We don't even have 40, we have 39 people who are receiving MASNA diplomas in the last 2 years. But Kate Milyanova is a 2-time prize winner at International Kegel competition. I'm sure you've heard of Kegel. And she took, at first she took a 2nd place, and then she took a 1st place at 2 of very different competitions. So in very different areas actually of research. Karina Simonova works as a leading analyst in SAS. Dmitry Donetskov is a data scientist at Yandex, and Sasha Limov is an analytical consultant, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Kirill Ivanov has actually a very interesting story. He's a linguist by first education, but he now works for AX Analytics. Dina Yakovleva speaks several languages, worked for 5 years in gas industry as an analyst in Turkey, actually working in Turkish, so she speaks Turkish language. And now she works as a senior content analyst for Thomson Reuters. Victoria Godunova is a leading analyst for Vito, and of course, Elena Belina, that I already introduced her to you. She did have some experience at Volkswagen Group, Rus, and she's currently working at Japan Tobacco International. So before I move on to talking a little bit more about the program itself, the MASNA program, and we have dedicated a lot of open doors to just talking about our program. I want to give the microphone, first of all, to Professor Barajas, who can tell us a lot more about his analytics for management and business program, and then maybe to Elena if she has a few words to say, and maybe if you have questions, allow you to ask questions specifically about how to make better decisions with analytics. So Angel, please.
Okay, so Valentina, thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. I have to tell you that I don't feel very comfortable with the SWOT analysis because, yeah, I think that is too much subjective. But it doesn't mean that that is a very common tool that is, yeah, used for many companies, and it's quite typical tool to do. So, but as we decided to launch this master in management, but in master in management oriented to analytics, because well, we wanted to take the advantage of the analytical tools that students that we have. So we think that it could be an advantage for them, and also because it's something highly demanded now by the industry. So in general, so there is a kind of extra salary for having this kind of skills. I have to say that the master is a master in management. So that's the first point. So it's oriented to decision making. So the idea is that students would need to use tools that are analytical, but in order to take decisions at the level of a company, or even in other levels, like it can be also for government. So we have a very, well, I would say that we have a quite balanced well, set of courses. We have some of them that are more like managerial and some of them that are more like technical or analytical. We think that for students from the master in network and applied statistics and network analysis, it can be better to take the courses that it has been remarked here. So for example, to know something about the strategic management, we have, it's a short course, it's just 3 CTS that is introductory. We have some courses like the second one, that is analytical tool for business. That is, so one of the things that the student have to do at the end of the course is to get the certificate of Google IQ and then the Metrica expert. That is something that is pretty much practical also, but 3 CTS. And then we have a course that is applied strategic management that is quite interesting. It's 6 credits. This is bigger, and it's taught by the CFO of the Moscow Stock Exchange. But he has been also, before working in different companies, has a very good professional experience. Well, also he was teaching in New York at the University of New York, Columbia. Then, well, we have these practical courses that are going to be conducted probably with in Moscow with network analysis. And then we have some courses that are more applied, more specialized, that are those related to people analytics, that is like human resources, but using tools that are more analytical, not just to focus on, I would say, as the traditional human resources. This is something that is very unique. So there are not many masters that are giving this kind of quantitative human resources. So that there is, for example, in Rotterdam the University, they have something similar. There are some, one university, I think in Newcastle, that also is offering this. For example, one of the students that we are going to have next year is from Sweden. And when I did the interview, so he told me that he decided to apply here because he saw that it was one of the unique opportunities. So these people analytics. And then we have customer analytics that is more marketing. This is quite, so is less, let's say is less unique, but is pretty much focused on is marketing, very quantitative in that sense. And then we have consumer behavior, data marketing analytical CRM. For example, this course, data marketing analytical CRM, is given by Christophe Cousemen, that is one of the leading researchers and lecturers. He's from ESSEC in France, and he has institute for marketing analytics. And it's quite, it's very, top, one of the top. So we have very other good visiting scholars. So for example, in consumer behavior, we have one professor from Politecnico de Milano and other professor from the University of Vigo. And then we have advanced marketing models that also provide with technical tools in order to do analysis for big data. I can tell you that I have been, in the last weeks, I have been attending the master dissertations, and well, this last week was the third paper dissertations, and it's really impressive what our students are doing, and very interesting from the point of view of the analysis, how they are, well, they are gathering a lot of information. There are some businesses, for example, like related to tourism industry, when you have a lot of reports with, so then they have scrapped all the data and they have done, for example, I'm thinking in one of the words, and what is the influence, what can be the influence of the comments of the reviewers, of the users in the pricing Airbnb, for example. Also, we have very interesting research line related with people analytics. So then, for example, this is also related with the laboratory that we have, in which we have a big database considering the demand of skills for every kind of job. And then, so the idea is to try to identify which job have a higher price, or the salary is going to have a bonus regarding the others, or which are the skills that are going to be more demanded for a higher price. So these are things that you can get in our master. The good thing that I think that you have is that you can choose different courses that what you think that is going to be more interesting for you. So it's quite flexible. So you have a lot of different offers. I can tell you general ideas regarding the master. So one of the key points is, for example, that we have a double degree agreement with Barcelona School of Management that belongs to, is the school for master programs that belongs to the University Pompeu Fabra, that is one of the more prestigious universities in Europe. So we have a double degree with them. One of the things that they appreciate is that we have this track in people analytics, but also they know the quality of the teaching that we have. That is, so they consider that is at the same level, more or less. We are also in conversation with EDEC, that is one of the leading universities, business school in France. And so, for example, the Master in Finance is #1 in the ranking of Financial Times, but also the Master in Management is very good. They have a master, 1-year master in business analytics. And so we are going to, so we are in closing the agreement in order to have a double degree with them. So it means that internationally, they consider that the education that we are providing is at least at the same level. If not, they wouldn't sign this kind of agreement. So as I have told you, we have foreign professors, that some of them are here already. And we have some very good visiting professors that are teaching in our course, in our courses. But also, so it's interesting to say that it's a very international mix that we have among the students. The first year we had 30% of students that were from foreign countries. And the second year it was 25%. For now, so we have people enrolled in the master, 25 students. So our master is a research team. We have other that is in sport analytics. And we are offering this new track in network analysis. So then we have a clear international orientation. We have tried to get a mix of different backgrounds in our students. So then we are very happy to admit students from engineering, from mathematical background with statistics. But also we have some others that are from political science or from humanities. They are the less, so because we try to know that they are going to be able to pass the courses, but still, so then we have some that are from humanities. So in that sense, for us, it's going to be very nice to have students with your skills with applied statistics and network analysis, because one of the points that we think that are very important is that we promote the working teams, and we try to mix to have different backgrounds, different cultural approach in order to make richer the experience. So I think that this is the most important things that I could say. So I will be here. So you have any questions, so I will be very happy to answer any particular question from you. So I think that from my side, this is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Barajas. That was actually, I mean, of course, you can tell a lot more about our program than I could. I just want to ask Elena Bilina if she has any additional comments that she wants to make at this very early stage of your taking over the leadership role in this track.
Hello, everyone. Probably I will just say a few words because I have not prepared anything for today, so I will make this brief. First of all, I want to mention that despite the fact that this will be the first year when we launch this business analytics track, I'm pretty sure that it will be an amazing opportunity for all of you. And actually, I was the first graduate of that program, and I'm sure for 100% that everything will be fine, and all our new specialists will be really proficient in this area of business analytics. And from my side, I suppose that I can give some inputs from business, from young specialist perspective, what is needed now at the labor market and which skills are the most important in case of business analytics, some data analysis, special skills, some managerial skills, and so on. So I think it will be really a good collaboration for all of us. And yeah, the results will be perfect.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you very much. Well, again, it's not very fair to Elena because I only invited her at the last moment, because so far we've been working so much in preparation for launching the program. We haven't had a chance to give her yet a chance to provide an input, and she will do that relatively soon. And then maybe we'll have another masterclass by her, for example, some of the skills that are required for today's business analyst. Now, I do want to say that our program is offered in applied mathematics and informatics. So the base for the program is the International Laboratory for Applied Network Research. So we're actually network analysts. Networks are extremely important to today's business because, well, I won't go into details why, because it's just too much to say and we don't have a whole lot of time. There are some other presentations available and you're welcome to watch them, but also you can read a little bit more about our program and why networks are taking all over the world. I will say though that before we had Facebook, Vkontakte, and all other online social networks, it was very difficult to explain what networks do. Now you say Facebook and people immediately understand that it's a way to connect on many, many different levels. And I'm sure you know that social networking sites being used for a variety of purposes, not just for social networking, for promoting the business, for becoming influencers, for different business opportunities. So networks are amazing, and having a network background is very important for an analyst. So we are network analysts. Our laboratory is 6 years old. It was founded by Stanley Wasserman. Those people who do know something about networks know this name. It's a classical name in network analysis. Currently, our laboratory is being supervised by professors Batagel and Ferrigoy from University of Ljubljana, also renowned world scientists in the area of networks. Now, our laboratory is an integrated analytical center with research, education, and consulting. We do a lot of consulting work now, and we teach you to consult, which I've already mentioned with a course called Statistical Consulting. It has grown into its own separate project, which I just have to share this with you, has just won a faculty competition for student projects. So it was recognized as one of the best submissions and will receive some financial support for continued development of this analytical workshop. Now, we do have many official partners. Our partnership with Ljubljana extends the supervision because there is a lot of exchange going back and forth. We are working on opening double degree program for students, including a PhD double degree. We do collaborate on lots of projects, and the program itself, I will not go into too many details because it's already almost 8 o'clock, but the program itself is actually called Applied Statistics because even though we know we are data scientists, we know we are data analysts, the word statistics is a classical word for for that discipline that's related to data analysis. And so in addition to business analytics track, which is just focusing on applying specific tools to decision-making in management and business, we are providing training in all areas of statistical analysis. And we do fit within the broader commitment of the Faculty of Social Sciences to data science. But even if you choose the track in business analytics, you will receive a wide variety of courses in different blocks. I mean, in mathematical disciplines, should you choose to take them. Most of the courses in our program are elective. You will learn advanced programming skills. At one point in time, we counted almost 20 different softwares that we expose our students to. I mean, of course, you're not required to learn and master all of them. You just need to know where they are and what and how they work so that when you need to, you can master them. And quite a few students take advantage of this opportunity. We do provide a lot of training in statistical network methodology, and our courses range from simple introductory courses, let's say linear models, to advanced models such as stochastic modeling, used a lot in financial analysis, or Bayesian methods, which is actually applied to all areas of science. So we do have a lot of course, a lot of training in networks. And sample course is not going to say a whole lot because you actually have to know the content to understand the meaning. But I do want to say we do have contemporary decision sciences methods, which is a mathematical approach to making decisions that helps people eliminate some of the biases that are currently presenting a problem with SWOT analysis, as I've mentioned before. And our students, we had 46 students altogether in the first 2 years. Now, those are the students that are currently enrolled or graduating. That's not counting the wonderful 18 people who have graduated from us last year. Now, 6 of them are from other countries. I'm not counting the CIS countries. That's only from what is called far abroad. And they come from a variety of different backgrounds. So very similar to the management analytics for business that St. Petersburg offers. Our students come from all backgrounds, from physicians, medical doctors, to data scientists actually who do have already some training in data science or in computer science. So the variety as wide as it comes. Quite a few of our students are social scientists that have excellent training in their own respective fields, such as sociology, psychology, management, but of course they are lacking some of the analytical skills that we do provide. So our students are very successful. We do have some Что, где, когда winners. We do have Kaggle winners. We do have top prizes at HSC student research paper competitions. We do have lots of different career opportunities, academic mobility. Here's another picture of Elena. Our students gossip about how wonderful our program is, and that's very good to know. And of course, we do have a motto for our program. Now, it has become a practice for many programs to develop their mission statements and develop their code of ethics. And we're still a very young program, so we haven't done all of these steps. But from the very beginning, we had the motto because we wanted our students to be the best that they could be. And this motto is written in a universal language, the language of mathematics. Now, as I'm sure you understand, this is the formula for average. So our motto is be greater than average. So it's been with us from the very formation of the program, and our students are in fact becoming much, much greater than average while still being students, and of course, very successful graduates. So at this point, I'm going to open the floor for questions if you have any. If not, you're welcome to contact us. I'm not going to talk about our scan. That's our analytical workshop. Here are our contact information. We do have an email. We are present in all social media. So feel free to contact us by email, chat in one of the messengers that you use, Telegram, TikTok, wherever you can find us, we are available. You're welcome to talk to any of our students. You're welcome to contact us if you want to get in touch with our faculty. So do learn a lot of information because we do provide the best opportunities for students to become greater than average. Thank you for being here. So do we have any questions? Okay, well, it looks like we don't have questions, so I'm going to stop recording. This recording will be available on our website. Thank you again for being here. Please join our Telegram group. The link is in the chat. And thanks for everyone who attended. Professor Barajas, Yelena, thank you for being here. You are our lifeblood and mission support, and I'm very excited about this new opportunity for business analytics track. So hopefully it will be a start of a very fruitful collaboration between the two campuses, and two sister labs actually opened at the same time 6 years ago. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing all the new people as students in our program.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.